On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, Knicks tonight, 12th time's the charm, right?
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, March the 3rd, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors for a good long time on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. 100% free as always. And we're off and running here on a Tuesday episode of the podcast. And we're breaking from usual tradition today. Typically, we don't do a whole lot of game preview content on the show because the shelf life, frankly, is quite short. But it's a big one tonight. Raptors, Knicks in Toronto, their fourth matchup of the season. They got one more left. Of course, they had one added for the NBA Cup game they played earlier this season to the schedule. So a heavy dose of the Knicks. And boy, oh boy, it's been a long time since the Toronto Raptors have prevailed over the Knicks. 11 straight losses to their in-division rivals. We're going to talk about that matchup. We're going to talk about the way the Eastern Conference playoffs are shaping up. The Raptors seemingly comfortable in that fifth seed right now. We'll see if that holds. But if that does hold, it looks like it's going to be one of two teams they play in the first round, the Knicks or the Cavs. We'll talk about those potential matchups a little bit later on as well, and just kind of take a look at the full playoff picture of the East. So we're going to do it all with our dear pal, Vivek Jacob, Big V. How the hell are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I am, thriving right now. We're gearing up for the final stretch of the NBA season. We got the T20 Cricket World Cup going on. We got the semis coming up. We got tennis in Indian Wells coming up. So I'm thriving right now, baby.
So many sports that I just sort of follow only through you. And I very much appreciate that. Let's jump on into a matchup we know pretty intimately here. The Toronto Raptors and the New York Knicks. Knicks in town tonight, their third time in Toronto this season. And again, the fourth of five matchups these two teams will play this year. And it's been a tough slog for the Toronto Raptors over the last few seasons against Knicks, of course, for the last couple of years, both at very different times in their competitive cycle and all of that. But this year, it's been a lot of blowouts over the course of the last 11 games against the Knicks. It's been a lot of blowouts. It's not nearly had the drama or the humor of the similar streak the Raptors had against the Chicago Bulls in the previous decade, where every game they lost to them seemed to come in hilarious fashion. This one's kind of just been boring. Knicks better than Raptors and close the book. The Raptors will be without Collin Murray-Boyles tonight. They will have Jakob, who's only been around for one of the matchups so far this year, and one of them was in mid-December where he was kind of on his way to missing a bunch of time with that back that wasn't right. And so it's a bit of a different dynamic. The Knicks are basically healthy minus Deuce McBride. What are you watching for tonight, Big V? I think for me, there's a lot of sort of unplucked low-hanging fruit for the Raptors against this Knicks team that we'll get into, but I'm curious going into tonight, what are the sort of keys you're keeping an eye on if the Raptors are in fact going to snap this very, very long losing streak against the damn Knicks?
Yeah, so I think this is probably one of those teams that we've seen the Raptors, when they get that punch in the mouth, like, are they able to punch back? And we haven't seen that. So I think that's probably the big thing. We know, the Knicks have a ton of offense, and we know that they can be very difficult to guard. And so I think it's more so about being able to sustain for a little bit. And so how much, in terms of two specific players, how much of a difference does Jakob make in that regard? And then, RJ, as he continues to find his health and try to, get back to who he was in November, I think that's the player that I think can make a difference in these types of matchups. And so those are probably a couple of key areas that I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just the overall, just like, hey, like sustained effort, sustained focus. Obviously, that's something that Darko has talked about in terms of, hey, like the motivation is there, that all of that is there. It's the focus that really needs to be there for 48 minutes. And that's proven to be a separator against the top 10 teams so far.
No doubt about it. And, talk about sustaining, like they got to figure out a way to just like score regularly on the Knicks as well. The Knicks are a fine defensive team. They're 11th in the league in defense per clean the glass. Like they're not some impenetrable force of incredible defense. Yes, OG Anunoby is a monster. Yes, Mikal Bridges is very good. Yes, Josh Hart is nasty, but like they do have some like pretty open sores on the defensive end in Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns that they just haven't really been able to pick at very well this season. And we'll get into, why I think having Poeltl around and maybe kind of leaning a little bit more into pick and roll, which they have of late since Quickley and Poeltl got reunited. Maybe that's a way to go and approach this matchup. But I do think like it's worth pointing out that the calculus of this matchup changes quite a bit with no Collin Murray-Boyles. We saw in the last game they played, they basically ran small ball with Collin Murray-Boyles guarding Karl-Anthony Towns and Scotty Barnes guarding Jalen Brunson as sort of the base defense. And I think what we saw in their last game was the Knicks wings completely exploded as a result of that, where, yeah, Brunson and Towns had rough nights, but OG, Bridges, like they were just not meeting much resistance at all. And they had themselves a field day against the Raptors in the last matchup. And it's not like the Raptors haven't thrown punches at the Knicks so far this year. Like they had the really good first quarter in the NBA Cup game. They had, a good first half before kind of a second half collapse in the last game they played against New York. Like they've shown that they can hang with them for portions of games, but it just hasn't all come together. And again, I think the matchup is quite different without Collin Murray-Boyles available. And I actually wonder if it opens up the Raptors to play a little bit more of like a straight up kind of classic defense against the Knicks, where it's just like, all right, Quickley's going to guard Brunson, Poeltl's going to guard Towns, and you guard their pick and roll kind of straight up positionally like that, and have Scotty probably guard OG and do his roaming thing off the ball and kind of unleash him that way, as opposed to using all of his sort of energy guarding Brunson in space and switching onto Towns when they run that pick and roll. It might lead to more production for that Brunson Towns pick and roll, but I just, I don't think it quite worked the way they hoped it would last time around. Without Collin Murray-Boyles, they kind of lose the ability to just easily switch that between two like-sized guys. Offensively, Immanuel Quickley, Jakob, both playing quite well right now. I talked about Brunson and Cat as kind of the guys you can pick at on the defensive end. What are you hoping to see from them? Is this a night to maybe kind of spam that pick and roll a little bit, just to kind of put Brunson and Cat into actions as much as you can? They're not designed to play that way, or haven't been designed to play that way. They don't like to play kind of spam pick and roll very often, but against this Knicks team, like those are the two guys who are asking to be involved in the defensive coverages. Do you think they'll kind of shift their play style leanings a little bit tonight to sort of throw that at the Knicks as opposed to their usual kind of through the wings led offense?
I hope they do. I don't know that they will. I think one of the things I've been thinking about going into the postseason is, that general ability to recognize matchups that can be exposed, and spamming that and just punishing that to a degree that forces the opponent into tough decisions. And, I think about when the Pacers played the Knicks and they basically forced Thibodeau to kind of be like, you're only going to be able to play one of Brunson or Towns.
Yeah.
We're going to force you into that predicament. And, how ruthless can the Raptors be in trying to expose that and trying to punish that? I think that's something that they have to be mindful of in terms of adding sort of that gear to their offense. And so, yeah, I'd be happy to see them try to target Brunson a little bit and punish him a little bit. And obviously there's a lot of things the Knicks do to, in terms of peel switching, early switches, like just try to get Brunson out of the action. And so I'm sure they'll come with that ready, but you got to have that starting point first. And I think that's something the Raptors should absolutely keep in mind.
It's also a matchup too that I think, kind of lends itself, when Mitchell Robinson's not on the floor, at least, to kind of playing small, because I think like Scotty's shown he can punch up with Cat as the sort of small ball five in those situations, and like the IQ Scotty pick and roll has been damn dynamic. You can run inverted stuff with those two guys as well. I'm curious to see how much they play around with it. It's the Knicks have become a harder team to guard with what Josh Hart has done this season, just making every single three he takes, because usually you just kind of play, oh, well, maybe Poeltl just kind of hangs out and, hangs near the rim and you let Josh Hart shoot to his heart's content, but no pun intended. But you can't really do that this year. And so it changes how the matchups work. It changes maybe the sort of eagerness you might have to go small. Obviously, it's harder without Collin Murray-Boyles, but I do think it's something they should probably explore in this matchup in particular, just because Scotty, I think can probably take it to Cat a little bit in that, 5-on-5 matchup if those two guys are going to be matched up positionally. It's, look, I don't know. I'm not expecting necessarily a resounding Raptors win here. I would like them to not get blown out. Like the closest game they've played this year has been decided by 16 points. Like it'd be nice to, have at least like a close one where you can maybe get some crunch time minutes. There might be an element of maybe not wanting to reveal everything that you have as far as tools in this matchup, considering we might be 6 weeks away from this being a first-round playoff matchup, and so that's maybe to be considered here as well. But it's going to be a fun one, and always interesting to see how the Raptors obviously take on the best teams. There were some encouraging signs last week, particularly in that Spurs game, until there wasn't. Hopefully they can carry over that energy from their performance against good teams to this good team they have on deck tonight. Big V, come back on the other side here. We'll get into a couple of good teams, one of them being the Knicks, who the Raptors might play in the first round. Who would we prefer, Knicks or Cavs? Or is there potential for a Celtics first-round matchup? Please, God, no. We'll talk about that coming up. Just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs, which helps you find and reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, and location-wise. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. You're putting it right in front of those people so they can see it and click on it and apply. And here's a stat that'll say it all. In the minute I'll be talking to you here about Indeed, companies like yours will make 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about it here on Indeed here on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And we're back here with Big V. We'll talk about the playoff matchup potential for the Raptors in the first round in a sec. Just a reminder, though, the Locked On Raptors Everyday Club is available for you to sign up. Link in the description of the podcast, lockedonraptors.supercast.com. Sign on up, $5 a month, $50 for the year. Gets you ad-free episodes of the show every single day. No interruptions, which is very cool. It helps me out big time, so thank you in advance for doing it. If you've yet to join, now is a great time to do it. Gearing up for the stretch run. Going to be some bonus episodes and stuff in there as well that will also feature no ads, so come on down. We'd love to see you. And you'll also get access to our Locked On network-wide Discord, which is lots of fun. NBA chat starting to heat up in there. It's a good time. Come hang out. Link in the description of the pod. All right. Big V. I don't know about you. I'm feeling more comfortable by the day that the Raptors are going to be the 5 seed, just because the morass of disaster shows below them and the Hornets seem to just kind of be gearing up to battle it out for the 6th seed and, figure it out the rest of the seeds from there. The Hawks are kind of hot. Great. I definitely believe in the Atlanta Hawks being good. The Heat are the Heat. The Magic are kind of a sad disaster that maybe should be put out of their misery for this season and just miss the playoffs entirely. We'll get into those teams a little bit later on. But with all of that, it seems as though the 5 seed is there for the Raptors, that they can kind of just hold course. And that will likely put them in the line of fire of either the New York Knicks or the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round. The Cavs right now are 4th, a game and a half back of the Knicks, 3.5 back, I believe, of the Boston Celtics, who are disgustingly, annoyingly good, and Jason Tatum might come back. So it feels like that 3-4 is going to be one of the Knicks or Cavs in some order. So even if the Raptors fall to 6, it looks like it's going to be one of those two teams. Who would you rather the Raptors play in the first round, Cavs or Knicks, and why?
The Cavs.
Yeah.
I feel like even though I don't, buy into the 3-0 record that much, and I think they are a better team with James Harden in the mix, I just feel it's still a better matchup than the Knicks. And so I think when you look at the guard play, I think the way that they could maybe approach Harden and Mitchell with who they have on the roster is a bit different. Is better suited than going up against Brunson and Bridges and OG and that dynamic. And yeah, like I was watching that Knicks Spurs game, and you know that was probably their best defensive performance of the season. So I'm not gonna say like that's the expectation of what the Knicks can do defensively. But I do feel like when you look at some of the limitations of IQ, some of the limitations of RJ, you know, Bridges and OG are better equipped to expose those than what the Cavs have to offer. And so I think that's where, in terms of getting enough out of IQ in a playoff series, getting enough out of RJ in a playoff series, I believe in that more in a Cavs series. And then obviously I think that, Scotty would thrive in any series, but I think particularly against the Cavs, he's had some big games. He loves going up against Mobley. And so I think that's a situation where he'd thrive, and Ingram as well, right? Like I think that's a situation where I think he'd feel pretty comfortable about getting his shot off at any time.
The Cavs got no wings, man. Like I know Keon Ellis is looking good and stuff, but he's also like 6'2" and a spindly 175, or he might be taller than 6'2", but it doesn't matter. Like they don't have enough wings to handle a wing-heavy Raptors attack. And like, yeah, okay, Evan Mobley, you're going to throw him on one of Scotty or Ingram. You might do that and might feel all right about it. I think you'd prefer Mobley closer to the rim if you're the Cavs, just because of his help defense and all of that. And I think we've seen that, like, you throw him on Scotty Barnes can still get his against Evan Mobley. He's just like bigger and stronger and more powerful at this point. And I'm not sure that's like a solve-all kind of solution for the Cavs. And then if you throw him on Ingram, okay, then you just kind of run things through Scotty. The guard defense, look, I think James Harden has his merits as like a post defender, kind of always has, but he's still James Harden. And Donovan Mitchell, I think, is about as good as you get for a high usage lead guard defensively. But I'm just not too scared of, relatively speaking. The Cavs would still be favored to win the series. I would pick the Cavs to win the series. But if we're talking about the comparison between the Raptors and the Knicks, I think the Knicks are kind of like specifically designed to slow down a wing-led attack, whereas I think that's just not the case for the Cavs. Jarrett Allen's not quite been the same, although the honeymoon Harden period has certainly been good for his lob dunk quotient and all that stuff. But yeah, I think the Cavs, also a team that's just kind of melted into puddles in the playoffs in the past as well. Yes, there's been injury and stuff like that, and there's no Garland, who I think was maybe one of their more prone to struggling the playoffs guys, but James Harden, I don't know if you've heard, has his fair share of playoff meltdowns on his resume as well. And so, yeah, like I think there are more avenues to the Raptors making it a long and uncomfortable series against the Cavaliers. With the Knicks, like I think, as much as like, we just talked about it, Brunson and Cat, that's like the sort of weak spot of the playoffs are about attacking weak spots. And as well as I think Immanuel Quickley has played lately, and as well as Jakob has played since he got back, like I'm not sure the Raptors are the most equipped to go and just like, okay, we're going to run our offense in a way that just kind of squarely targets Brunson and Cat without kind of cutting off some of the more important and better components of their offense. And so it might work for a single game tonight, for example. If they went and did it over the course of a 7-game series, I think they'd probably run out of steam. And it's interesting, too, a guy we didn't talk about last segment, but I think Jakob Walter is kind of an important dude in this matchup. And if Jakob Walter were 2 years older and more experienced, maybe I feel a little bit better about just kind of having him be your Brunson stopper, but he's not 2 years older and more experienced. He's still a little inconsistent. I think he's a big part of this matchup tonight. And any games they do play against the Knicks, he had a really nice showing back in the NBA Cup game, for example. And I think he's playing right now better than he has at any point this year. So they're catching the Knicks at a good time from a Walter perspective. But yeah, I just don't think they quite have enough firepower to hang with that Knicks team. It's just like a really damn good offensive team. And I'm not quite sure the Raptors have the full array of weapons to really punish their biggest weaknesses. What do you make of that Knicks matchup? Like I mentioned the avenues to beating the Cavs. Are there any avenues to the Raptors beating the Knicks in a 7-game series to you?
I mean, I think it's going to be really tough. Like, I think the best case scenario is just like, hey, can you put up a fight to push it to 6 or
Mm-hmm.
7. You know,
Mhm.
like I think that's kind of the best case scenario. I agree with you completely about their offense. I think, you know, I think Darko's points about focus are valid, but I also just feel like there's times where the offense just there have to be easier offensive options
Mhm.
for the Raptors against these top teams. And I think when the offense gets bogged down and you're not able to sustain at that elite level that you need to be at against these top teams, that's when, all of a sudden, 2 minutes becomes 4 minutes, becomes 6 minutes, and it's like, whoa, that's a 15-point gap.
Your defense
That's
can
been
only hold the dam for so long, right? Like,
Yeah,
their
exactly.
defense has
And
kept them
so
in games against good offenses, but it runs into a limit in the modern NBA where threes are a thing and offenses are really good.
exactly. So, we can talk about the focus, but at the same time, it's just like, hey, you gotta, as a team, you have to be able to go into these games knowing that you can put up 43s in a game if you have to,
Mhm.
and make a good chunk of them too, right? Like the Knicks, they played the Spurs. They went 17 for 48 from three.
Mhm.
Like the Raptors do that. That's like a hallmark night.
Yeah.
And,
You're hanging a banner for that one, man.
and for the Knicks, it just feels like something that they can do nightly, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's where you just look down that roster. It's like Cat can give you threes, Bridges can give you threes, OG can give you threes, Brunson can give you threes. You can't put bigs on Josh Hart anymore because now he's knocking down threes.
Mhm.
And then you look on the Raptors side of things, and it's kind of been the story for a while now, right? Whether it's the Fred plus Gary plus OG to now like IQ, and if BI's feeling
Sometimes
it,
Ingram.
if
Yeah.
yeah, and if Jacoby's feeling it, and if RJ's feeling it, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Mamu
it.
too. I mean, they have more, I think,
Yeah.
this year than in maybe 2022 when they were just like, what are guards and why is shooting? No, everyone is long. That's all we need. What a
uh
weird team.
so so yeah, I just feel like you go in thinking this team should be able to get up like 25 threes in a game, and that's not a good
Mhm.
place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, long way to go in that regard.
Yeah, no doubt. Those super powered offenses, man. And look, the Cavs have been really, really good since James Harden came around. And again, the Raptors would be not favored in any of these series. I'm just looking for ways to make it competitive and fun, and maybe a surprise upset type of thing. Take it 7. Put a scare into a team. I think that's kind of what you're hoping for here. And anything beyond that is an absolute just a home run win. The Cavs, I think, offer a few more of those opportunities for the Raptors for sure. Although, hey, like the Knicks have, they're not exactly ironclad, nose to the grindstone. Playoffs come around and everything's perfect kind of team. Like that, they do employ Karl-Anthony Towns, who's a bit of a wild card in all of this, who I love dearly and will forever support. But, you can be kind of a disaster sometimes. I just don't think enough of a disaster to put them over the Cavs in my hierarchy of teams I'd like to see the Raptors play in round 1. We'll come back on the other side, Big V, and take a look around the rest of the Eastern Conference. Who are we worried might catch the Raptors, if anybody? And how are we hoping the play-in race shakes out with the matchups in the first round to optimize our own entertainment, our joy, our pettiness, whatever? We'll do that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, it's never a bad time to start thinking about the ways you can show up for the relationships in your life. And for me, I think a lot about how I can be there for the women in my life, most notably my wife, who's wonderful, who's taking care of our little baby boy right now while I talk to this microphone. And I'm always thinking about how I can better show up as a partner for her to make things more manageable. Life is hard, especially when you got a little baby at home or whatever your situation might be. And being able to nurture the relationships in your life that matter most are a really big deal. And therapy has been a great tool for me. I've done it before to sort of just talk through the relationships that matter to me, how I can be better present for them, how I can show up. And you can do the same as well. It's never a bad thing to talk to somebody to kind of get an outside perspective on the relationships that matter most to you, and BetterHelp can be the way to do that. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Convenient, flexible online therapy. BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night from early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts. There's always action on the board. Plenty of big NBA prospects playing around in college these days as well. Maybe you're at Kingston Fleming's head with Houston. That pipeline of good guards they seem to always turn out. Maybe you're someone who's really in on Keaton Wagler over at Illinois. And right now, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn your March Madness energy and your incessant tuning in to watch these draft prospects into even more potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, mixed spreads, totals, player props, and all of it is there for you to go and play around with. And you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go and you can go safe, go bold. You can ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, your rules, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Back at it here with Big V, taking a little snapshot of the Eastern Conference. The Raptors sitting fifth, 2 games up on these sixth-place Philadelphia 76ers, who are kind of going through it right now. You got the Magic behind them. They've been going through it all season long. The Miami Heat, who in many ways are like a carbon copy statistically of the Raptors, just kind of a little more sad. You've got the Atlanta Hawks. The Charlotte Hornets seem to never, ever lose basketball games. And then there's, of course, Giannis did come back, I guess, last night for the Bucks, and they continue to lose and be bad and are just sort of like flailing and hopelessly trying to get into the play-in because who knows what the Bucks are doing these days. Big V, I'll start here to sort of keep it Raptors centered. Of the teams below them, is there anyone you are most fearful of the Raptors getting run down by and caught? And maybe there's 2 teams that push them into the play-in range. I think that's pretty far-fetched at this point with only 20-ish games to play, but stranger things have happened. I don't think any of these teams are particularly good outside of the Hornets, who might be awesome, but where are you at with all these teams and who is the most likely to catch the Raptors, factoring how good they are plus how far back they are?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like reality, Philly is probably the one that you'd say can sneak up above them. I think, if they can just close well and have Embiid available for the majority of these games, then
you're telling me if the Sixers have Embiid available, they might be all right? Never heard that before.
But that's like the only shot, right? Like, do I trust Orlando to really put it together and be right there? Not really at this stage of the season. Do I think that Atlanta is really going to pop out, or Miami? No, I think they are like just around 500 teams, and that's where they'll end up. Charlotte, if they had gone on their run earlier, then they would have probably been the team. Like, of those teams, that's probably the best team. And I know we're going to get into this later in terms of like matchups on the outside that we'd like to see, and the Hornets are going to be in one of mine, and I'm sure they're in one of yours. But yeah, I feel like that is probably the hottest team right now, but they're just too far away. I mean, 5.5 games with 20 games to play. I think that's just going to be too much. The Raptors are pretty much going to have to go winless against these, top 10 teams the rest of the way to kind of create that possibility.
Yeah. I disagree on which team is most likely to potentially catch them. I don't think any of these teams are going to catch the Raptors, by the way, but I think the Heat are probably the team for me. They have like the best statistical profile outside of the Hornets. Like they're basically, again, they're like a carbon copy of the Raptors, basically identical point differentials. The Raptors are 14th in offense, 7th in defense. The Heat are 16th in offense, 5th in defense. Like they're again, I think they're a less talented team. I think there's a little bit of Eric Spoelstra magic coaching them up a little bit. I think the Raptors just have a better roster. I think Scotty Barnes is pretty obviously the best player on either team this season. Sorry, Bam, but like you're just not that dude right now. So I'm not like saying the Heat are better than the Raptors by any means, but looking at their closing schedule, they have the 21st most difficult schedule, therefore the 10th easiest schedule in the league down the stretch. They play 3 games against the Wizards, 2 against the Nets. They also have the Pacers in there as well. And I think, pertaining to the Raptors, there are 2 games they play against the Raptors in the final week of the season that give the Heat at least a chance to, crawl back from being down 2-0 in the tiebreak and just pick up 2 straight games, if they can beat the Raptors twice in a row. Again, I'm not betting on them beating the Raptors twice in a row. I think the Raptors kind of own that matchup a little bit, but I think the avenue is there for Miami, using that term again, like for Miami to kind of make this happen just based on the quality of remaining opponents plus actually having 2 left against the Raptors. Beyond that, I think the Magic are totally cooked. I wouldn't be surprised if they just lose in the play-in and don't make the playoffs at all. The Hornets, again, 5.5 is just too much to make up. The Hawks not feeling it. And I think the Sixers, I don't see them just magically getting Joel Embiid back for every game to close the year. Plus Paul George is out. I think the Sixers are kind of flagging right now. And so, yeah, I would say the Heat. But again, if that's the team you're most worried about, maybe it's not something to be worried about whatsoever. Quickly, it's sort of looking at the playoff picture and ideal matchups, just again, for our own entertainment purposes, things we want to see, matchups we like, pettiness, whatever. How are you hoping it all breaks down here, 1 through 8 after the play-in rounds out? If we assume Raptors 5th, Knicks somewhere 3-4, the Celtics and Pistons 2-1 respectively. How are you hoping this thing all shakes out come playoff time and the first round matchups we get to see?
Yeah, I mean, I do hope the Hornets make the playoffs. I think it'll be fun to watch them, especially against the Pistons. I mean, they're just so good offensively. Like, to watch them go up against the Pistons defense, I think would be really entertaining. And I
Let's
think
fight.
yeah, we can get Diabate and Duran part 2 with maybe Isaiah Stewart actually in the mix this time. So yeah, I think that'd be fun. And then I think just from a vibe standpoint, like the Pistons being like this, we do everything hard versus a Hornets team led by LaMelo that's just like we do everything cool and fun and chill.
We'll be a real teacher's pet versus guy who coasts through school because they're just smart and don't actually try that hard kind of matchup. I'm into that.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of fun to be had there. Besides that, I think it's more so looking further down the East, beyond the first round. And obviously, I think for the most part, I do feel like the Pistons Celtics matchup has been really intense and been really fun to watch. And I think that'd be cool to see in the playoffs. I think on some level, the Pistons probably want some kind of revenge on the Knicks. So I think that'll be a fun series. So yeah, I think those top teams, in terms of another first round potential battle, just because of the way the series went the last time around, I'd love to see the Sixers and the Knicks again. And in terms of like the way the fans got into it, the intensity there, Tyrese Maxey at that time was like teasing what he can be, and now he's here as like pretty much right there on the precipice of superstardom. So yeah, I think that'd be a really fun one to watch too. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pathway is here for kind of the ideal first round bracket. Going back to who we want the Raptors to play and the Cavs, like I think if you have the Heat win the 7-8 game as it stands against the Magic, maybe I don't want that. No, we need the Hornets to catch up here. No, I was wrong. No, the Heat win the 7-8 game, the Heat are the 7 seed, and they get the Celtics. I think, look, I'm not going to watch that series, Celtics Heat, but I will put eyes on it once because those two teams are heinous. But I would rest easy knowing that the Celtics have to play a team that just like will make it difficult for them with their weird Heat devil magic stuff. And maybe, just maybe, there's an outside chance the Heat pull the thing and pull an upset. Don't think it happens, but like if someone's going to do it to Boston, it's probably the Heat, who just have perpetually been a thorn in their side. And then you get the Magic losing to the Hornets, because I'm assuming the Hornets beat the Hawks in the 9-10 game. Hornets beat the Magic. You get the Hornets Pistons first round. So you do get your Knicks Celtics Sixers rematch. You get your Cavs Raptors. That sounds pretty darn fun to me. Just anything involving the Magic, I'm out on. Like I don't need to see that team anymore. They are too sad, too depressing, too disappointing. Get them out of my life. The Hawks making it would be very funny, but I don't think that's in the cards either. Big V, what is in the cards is you have good posts over at Raptors in 7. Plug them, please.
Yeah, we're obviously gearing up for this stretch run and trying to cover this team the best way we can. And by we, I mean myself and Joe Wolfond.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's been putting together a lot of great content. So make sure you get that subscription in. It is free for the remainder of the season, the playoffs. So I think you're going to see a lot of awesome stuff there. And yeah, get in on the ground floor. I think we're maybe on the first floor now in terms of the subscription. So thanks to all the people who have subscribed so far. But it's not too late. So get on board.
Do it now. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. The podcast on your favorite podcast apps, YouTube, all that good stuff. Always appreciate it. You can find our Discord, link in the description of the podcast. 100% free to join the Locked On Raptors specific Discord. It's also $5 a month or $50 for the year for the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club. It gets you ad-free episodes of the show every single day, plus access to our network-wide global network of folks over on Discord, talking hoop, talking hockey, talking World Baseball Classic when it starts up. It's a great time. We'd love to see you over there. And again, $5 a month or $50 for the year. Doesn't cost a lot. I think it's a pretty good deal, and it helps me out tremendously when you sign up. So thank you for doing so if you have yet to take the plunge. We will talk to you again on Wednesday, breaking down Raptors Knicks. I think we're also going to try to get our pal Trill Bro Dude from Ball in the Pod on Thursday. Always a pleasure talking to Trill. And yeah, we'll see what else comes from the rest of the week. Raptors Wolves on Thursday night. That'll be lots of fun. We'll talk about that Friday. And maybe I'll sprinkle in a bonus episode or two as well, answering your mailbag questions. I got a really good one about Scotty Barnes and sort of ideal teammates that I'm going to turn into a bonus episode at some point here soon. So stay tuned for that, okay? Thanks so much for hanging. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. I hit my hand on my laptop as I was taking the shot. I'm calling foul.